So I've come to the point of the process where if I want to prime the inside of the vertical stabilizer, now's the time to do it. I've taken everything apart. The plans basically say, you know, double check that everything is properly deburred and prime if desired. In general, the Vans doesn't tell you you must prime or you don't have to prime. They essentially in section 5 they explain that the skins and most of the skeleton parts are an aluminum alloy that has been coated with a thin layer of pure aluminum and therefore don't need to be primed. I think the reason for that is that the pure aluminum will oxidize to an extent, and that forms a protective barrier against further oxidation. They tell you if you live in a salty environment or if you want additional corrosion protection, then some people choose to prime. And there's a lot of schools of thought and opinion on whether you should prime the inside. It adds extra weight, it's obviously extra time and expense, it's a hassle, but I wouldn't think it could hurt in terms of corrosion protection. Some of the choices of product it ranges everywhere from expensive, possibly fairly heavy and elaborate epoxy primers, all the way down to just going to the store and getting a spray can, rattle can, and priming with that. What I've chosen is sort of in between. It's a product from Sherwin-Williams. It's this industrial wash primer P60 G2. It's a two-part product in that also you mix it with this R7 K44 catalyst and reducer, and so you got to mix it up and then apply it with a paint sprayer. So this is a first for me. I haven't used a paint sprayer before. I'm going to give it a try and see how well I can do with it. It doesn't have to look good really because it's on the inside of the plane, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to scuff it up with this finer, slightly finer than the maroon Scotch-Brite pad. This is a little bit finer stuff. I'm going to scuff it up with that. I'm going to clean it with acetone, let it dry, and then spray it with this product. The reason I chose this is, the shortest reason is it's what Vans uses on their quick build kits. That doesn't make it the best. In fact, Vans doesn't even claim that it's the best. They basically say it's reasonably easy to use, it's lightweight, it dries quickly, and it seems to offer decent corrosion protection. It's not even sold as a one-coat corrosion preventative by Sherwin-Williams. They say that it really needs a top coat, but then again, it's not going to be used on the outside of the plane where it would be exposed to UV and the elements. It's going to be inside where basically it's sealed up anyway, or not sealed, but out of the elements. It's not going to be rained on or have the sun beaten down on it. So that's what I've chosen to do. It's expensive. This right here is almost $200 for 3 gallons of liquid. I can't just mix it all up in one shot and store it because it's like an epoxy. It's going to react once you mix this in. The instructions say it's a 1.5 to 1 ratio. I'm going to do 2 to 1, so I would have had to buy 2 gallons anyway. And I'm going to mix up just the smallest amount that I think I can get away with, for this part of the process. Again, I chose it primarily because Vans. It's what Vans uses, but then also because it's what Vans uses, evidently a Vans employee about 20 years ago took a sheet of aluminum, divided it into 3 sections, left one section just untreated. The middle section, he cleaned it with a degreaser and applied this primer, and the third section he actually scuffed it up and also then cleaned it with a degreaser and applied the product. And he hung it outside under a stairwell at their factory, which is about 50 miles from the ocean, I think, something like that. And he's just left it there. And he's been checking on it every couple of years. He'll scrape off, every 4 years, I think, or so, he'll scrape off a little section of the primer and compare that to the part that's been left exposed. It's, again, it's under a stairwell, it's out of the elements, but exposed to the atmosphere outside. And it's just been this running experiment. And just so happened that when I was on the forums, on Van's Air Force forum, reading up on the different primers and the different choices, I hit upon where just a couple of months ago, actually, the guy at Van's that was sort of running this ad hoc experiment had sort of updated everyone on the progress. And basically, the raw aluminum that was uncoated is oxidized but still doing fine. So that's good, right? That's a testament that maybe you don't need to prime. It should be fine after 20 years of being exposed. But the areas under the primer looked, once he got the primer scraped off the section, it looked brand new. So, it's reassuring. If nothing else, again, there's a lot of opinion, but that's some actual data. Somebody's running a little experiment, and that's the kind of thing that, if I had 20 years to run a test, I'd go do that too, and then make my decision later. But so that's the plan. It's apparently pretty toxic stuff. I've got some protective gear, a mask, with, decent mask with filters, some goggles and stuff to wear because you don't want to get it on your skin. And I've built sort of a makeshift paint booth in the basement here. The weather's okay. I could probably do this outside today, but going forward, when the weather's possibly colder, that sort of thing, I wanted to have a way to do this inside, but I don't, and I'm gonna, take the camera and sort of look at the paint, show the paint booth here in a minute. But I wanted to have a sort of a semi-portable, way that I could do this priming in the house without completely filling the house full of horrible toxic fumes, and then, roll the paint booth up and put it away until the next time I need it. So this is my makeshift paint booth. It's basically just, PVC attached to the ceiling with some clamps, PVC down at the bottom as well to form a frame, and then painter's plastic taped semi-tight around one edge and around the bottom of each wall, so to speak, and then clamps holding it, up at the top. And the idea is I should be able to, so the place where the plastic is taped, it's not actually taped directly to the PVC, it's sort of taped around so that it can slide. And so what I should be able to do is take apart the PVC, it's not glued, unhook the PVC pieces, and then slide the plastic down, unclamp it from the ceiling, slide it down, and basically roll the whole thing up and store it. So stepping inside, this will slide closed, of course, and I'll clamp it closed. And then once I get in here, so it's about a 7 foot, I don't know, I didn't measure it to any specific side, but it's about, let's say, 8 foot square. And I've got this fan. This is a squirrel cage blower that came out of a very old rack mount hard drive, if anyone cares. And what that does is it's pulling air in and blowing it out the window. I've got it mounted in pink foam board, basically just jammed into the window there. And then I went ahead and I put plastic up on the outside wall too. I didn't want my posters getting sprayed. And it's not airtight. In fact, I didn't want it to be. There's a gap at the top, and basically the idea is as long as the fan provides enough flow, it'll keep the pressure, keep the airflow pulling in over the top here and in through the cracks and out the window, and basically keep the fumes from going in the house, and at least keep some amount of clean airflow flowing in as I'm working. I built these, so that's my stand for my paint gun. And then I built these PVC racks to hang the parts on as I spray them. That one over there as well. And then I've got some cardboard on the floor here. I've actually got some more cardboard I'm going to bring in here. That, of course, came from the van's empennage crate. Gotta use that. So I'll put the skin on that. I'll hang the ribs and spars and other parts on these racks. And my air hose, I'll just feed it under, or between the cracks there. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And like I mentioned earlier, I've got plenty of, I've got a real good mask that hopefully should keep me from breathing the toxic fumes. And I've got some, covering to put on. I'll put on some old clothes, of course, and but I've got a covering to keep getting on my skin. I've got goggles. I've got a thing to wear over my head. So I should be pretty protected, and going to give this a try.